Aren't you getting tired of all these Switch 2 think pieces? It's like every single other video is just, where's the Switch 2 rate in the pantheon of consoles? Is this launch so weak? How dare they? And these kind of complaints have been coming up constantly in every video I've been seeing. Like a day or two before the Bonanza Direct, people were complaining about the weak launch, even though if they waited 3 weeks, we're gonna get another fucking AAA Nintendo first-party game. Of course the launch is good, it's fine. As far as software goes, at least. And I think all this kind of conjecture all around is just masking the fact that we have like a bunch of very interesting games coming down the pipeline and not very much coverage on it, so one of those games, a game in a beloved series for me, and that is Kirby Airriders. More of a cult classic than a classic, but nonetheless, this game has a very special place in my heart as someone who doesn't care about Mario Kart. So having a alternate kind of kart racers with its own sort of form and play style really appeals to me, and it is quite the classic in my household growing up. So the position we're in right now is that Kirby has no information going onto it. It's coming out this year. We didn't get a June Direct, so this video is just going to be sort of a speculation rant because there's already a lot of questions to be had about what a sequel could even look like for this game. And I think it'll be fun to go over what's on my mind at the moment. I'm not going to be covering all the game modes particularly thoroughly. I think a good ground level of just talking about points related to like the overall package are more interesting than delving into what particular changes I would like to see. Starting off, one issue that always comes up with Kirby Air Ride is just when you're new to the game and you start up the game for the first time, the amount of knowledge you need for this game is already expanded considering the big selection of carts that you... So when you play the game at a friend's house, there is a wide plethora of carts to choose between, and they all are completely different play styles from each other, which kind of makes this game so unique, is that the game knowledge kind of never stops ending, and it's a very high skill ceiling game. Finding all the extra tricks where each cart can be more powerful than the others is the main goal, but this huge knowledge check right at the beginning. You have to know which cart is strong for any particular map, as well as any particular challenge you'll be facing in any of the modes, as well as getting familiar with the complex gliding mechanic and all the particulars when it comes to racing and power-ups. And this amount of like skill checking right off the bat is kind of the big struggle point I see with coming back to a series like this. The thing that's interesting about it, though, is introducing an online element to this game actually might end up saving the issue of getting your friends into games like this, because back in the days, as soon as you play this game with someone who has put their time into it, they know all the ins and outs, particularly because of the records and checklist system in the game. Being able to work your way through all these is kind of the main meat of the game and gives it all of its single player content. Now, considering it's a Sakurai game, I'm sure this will continue to be there. While Ultimate's version of the checkerboard was a bit different handled, it's still basically the same thing in practice. But going through these challenges teaches you so much about the game and what each star does, giving you particular challenges like being time attacks with some of this niche star that you'd never choose. So learning the ins and outs in that regard will probably be easier in the online era, where it's kind of more expected that you play through like some single player elements then before you start challenging people. It's sad that this era in gaming is that couch co-op and couch multiplayer are just like not as existent anymore, so playing this game will definitely feel different. But speaking of online modes, that raises an important question. How many racers are we planning on having on screen here? The game has always been a 4-player game, but with things like online play or expanded graphical capabilities and not being stuck to, 4 physical ports, it raises the question of what will be seen in a multiplayer mode. I'm sort of expecting 8-player city trial to be a thing. The main question there is that how will the maps be restructured to work with this kind of player base, because a kind of odd point in the multiplayer here is that the stadium matches were all tiny arenas that force people to interact constantly because of how much speed and control you needed to be able to deal with an opponent. And it's kind of the, like, even looking at like competitive multiplayer clips, they mainly play 1v1 for a reason. Being able to lock down and keep track of all your opponents in a big chaotic arena like this is just not super realistic. And it's also a question of how will you rebalance the many copy abilities in the game. Of course, it's expected to have more and different ones, but one of the odd parts about balance here is just that the only way they could make these work originally were giant area of effect or auto-locking attacks, which kind of made things like sword like the best power-up by far, because you just didn't have to control any of it. Sorry, freeze, but you got a whole day, and stay put if you want to be using it. And that just ruins so many of the cart's momentum, because A does everything in this game, which is the simple joy about this, is like, it's all analog stick and one button. One of the things that this new Mario Kart game has me wondering is, where are the points of innovation going to be? Because Mario Kart's already aping off the Kirby game's grinding system to a degree, but what other new mechanics will we see? Like, I think the simplicity of the game will probably stay intact, seeing as this is a Sakurai game, and he usually tries to keep things as simple as possible. Like, very rarely for sequelization will he add too many new mechanics that fundamentally change how you interact with these systems. I'd like to see changes to copy abilities, but other than that, I don't see like too many extra buttons being added or anything like that. So re-examining the power-up situation will be interesting. Obviously, from a more casual perspective, you can just jump into something like Top Ride, which gives you a much more party gamey focus with big comeback mechanics and all that. But in the main modes, it's very much a challenging experience. The big exciting thing from the trailer, and the only real piece of info that we have besides the returning carts, is that Masahiro Sakurai is coming back as the game director for this, and something that you'll know about his games if you play them is that he has a specific love and dedication to gaming history and keeping things as classics and reminding you of retro moments. This is seen in like all of his games, by the way. So my biggest prediction I have here is there will be a retro throwback version of City Trial that is the same exact map as from the first game. I think one of the many things people would be looking forward for in a remake is additional City Trial maps, because we only had the one back in the day. So being able to get different themed ones or much more different structure could give this game a big edge over the original. The general design scope of this game is still something that's in question. Something that Kirby Studios do is much more than other games, is have much smaller budgets and keeping design focus on giving you like more of a simple multiplayer thing, which gives me my second and final firm prediction here, is I don't think there's going to be any paid DLC updates. I just don't see that happening. I know people will be excited to see it, but this doesn't seem like a long-term support type of game, and unfortunately it's coming out in a time bracket where there's just going to be much sharper competition for the kart racing genre in general. They sort of had to have known that Mario Kart was coming out this year, but also you got the Sonic game, X Minecraft, X Hatsune Miku extravaganza, so I don't know if this game is going to perform. As I said before, this is a cult classic. It's not a classic, unfortunately. I do want to do some coverage of just talking about the existing stars in the game, because I think it's interesting looking over them and wondering how balance is going to be applied to them in the future. I did do a quick sanity check and watched over some competitive play formats. It's not like the end-all be-all of direction. They mostly play city trial games, 1v1. But I can do that as well as supply some of my own knowledge of the game, because one thing, if you play the game a lot, you end up learning quite a bit about the game. And the one thing you'll end up noticing is that a big issue with how the game balance works for most of these tracks. Going back to this example of being your first time playing at a friend's house, going through all these choices, you won't even know exactly how useful each of these stars are relative to each other. And the hope it would be is that overall their strengths and weaknesses will be balanced across not only the existing maps in any creative particular way, or being able to balance across generally how useful they are just in a vacuum. But the big kind of issue you'll end up finding when playing this game is that Swerve Star and Wing Star are just way too broadly applicable for this kind of game. The magic number you'll see a lot around is 31 miles per hour or kilometers per hour, I don't even remember. These will hit them so consistently on every map that basically none of the other stars are really gonna catch up consistently. Like Warp Star, I think default is like 38, as well as a bunch of the other stars. And the hope is that looking over the gimmicks on each of these, that the balance and trade-off prevent you from being able to pick them the whole game, but unfortunately there kind of just aren't. Swerve Star is supposed to have the issue of no drifting, which isn't really a real downside, but is supposedly supposed to be a somewhat weak glider, and also boost pads do basically nothing for you. Going for them is usually pointless. So you'd think those would be harsh enough downsides, but overall it'll still just be extremely consistent. Same thing for Wing Star, because there are so many maps where gliding is not only easy and viable, because this gives you some of the strongest glide timer in the game, that even if you are on the ground, the speed downside just doesn't really matter. And then from all the other options we have around here, most of them just aren't really close. Jetstar's neat. It's one of my favorites. Gives you big speed boosts, very good for maps when they have little slopes along the ground that you can just chain them together like you're starting to glide, but then you just get launched. That one's good overall. Warp Star, of course, is your balance choice. They made sure to make this actually not bad. Chow Star is actually kind of weird because it doesn't feel different enough to Warp Star overall. It's supposed to be the strong attacking option, but health isn't enabled by default. I think health should be introduced as a main mechanic for the air ride portions of races, because it is so hard to consistently tack down damage on your opponents in these games that there needs to be some sort of involved risk for picking stars that give you like these strong upsides but have like no consistent way to catch you. Like, how are you supposed to catch someone flying all the way up there? Like, come on. Come down! Get down from there, bastard! This just kind of makes gliding even more polarizing, even though it should be something that's encouraged. So smaller health pools for some of these stars would give a great way to differentiate it, and if you get knocked out, you get introduced back into the race. It also helped buff some of the high health stars that aren't as fast. And then talking about some of the other stars around here, of course you got your archetypical wheelie bike. This gives you more of like a jump play style, and you are guaranteed to activate boosters and like floor traps and such whenever you drive up over them, which gives it a bit of a different feel. Overall pretty good. The variance of it, Rex Wheelie, is not really sensical, and Wheelie Scooter just doesn't have any real opportunities in this game to leverage its very high jumping for main game mode. Its excellent acceleration and cornering is also its main upside here, and there's just not any maps that have like enough hairpin turns to justify it compared to every other star. And then you kind of run into all the corny cornball extra stars that no one cares about. Wagon Star, I think, is supposed to be a joke. I'm not really sure. It feels like it's not terrible at gliding short distances, but no charging makes it like mostly pointless. And it's also got this weird like braking function that you can throw in. Like, I think it's a joke option overall. You'd think that's the same with the Slick Star, but actually it's kind of fine. It's the reverse Swerve Star in a lot of ways, because you basically pick a direction while you're charging and then launch into that direction, so you're going to be like orbiting around it. It can take fairly tight turns. Its base speed is actually pretty good, so it's kind of less of a joke. Bulk Star kind of has the issue of it's just not fun to use. It's not terrible, honestly, but I don't think people like want to sit there and charge up to get like a very good top speed out of it. Rocket Star is okay. Low acceleration and having to charge long boosts to get around the map quickly. And it's really only useful for straightaways. Low acceleration otherwise, poor cornering. And kind of what makes it unappealing is that the de-acceleration afterwards is more rapid than you'd think. Pretty good for KOing opponents. I don't have a clip for it, I'm sorry. Plus being a bad glider just like doesn't get you far. Speaking of which, Formula Star, who thought this was a good idea? There's just like no way to corner with this thing ever. Has such niche use cases on things like Nebula Belt and Drag Race, but like every other scenario, like why even use this? Who put you in the game? I'm gonna put you in the grave. If you continue to be like this in the sequel, it's all over for you. Final one, oh, I wish this one was cool. Turbo Star is hilarious because like it's supposed to be this like strong cornering boost around the corner. You get a huge edge when you go around corners, but there's like none in the game. As well as once you reach those corners, your actual top speed with it is like barely better than the Warp Star anyway, so it like has no functionality in this game. It's very unfortunate. I think it's probably the coolest looking star in the game. Then we have the guests. Meta Knight always having sword power, very strong. Overall top speed is just like not there compared to like wing power-ups or the winged star, so it can give you the best of all worlds. Being able to hit enemies as you're driving is the main mechanic in this game to give you small speed boosts, something important, though I do have an issue with how sword works in this game where you are risking nothing to be getting these boosts. Also in the first game, copy abilities and enemies have this really strange balance issue where getting attacked by most things will slow you down by such a minor amount that attacking other players seems like a net neutral most of the time to negative. Only certain gimmick stars will be impacted by an attack much, and most of the good ones actually see good outcomes because of acceleration and glide. And also, if you haven't noticed, stopping someone faster than you is essentially impossible. It totally just makes this a very frustrating game sometimes. Ground and gliding stars with some attacks could be a good way to balance this issue in the new game. Enemies then become your main target for when you have copy abilities. And I think there could be some innovation here in the sequel. You earn a small speed boost for every enemy you kill, but most abilities and carts see no practical benefit in most cases. In carts like the Swerve Star, which nullify some of the weaknesses of the copy abilities, makes it even more polarizing to play against. These basic star shots are really worthless and accurate too. Maybe a change to inhale would be good. Being able to inhale multiple things before launching them, stocking them up, spitting them out. You get the idea. Back to talking about the stars. King DDD is like just kind of a joke version. It's sort of like just a Rex wheelie with like a melee attack. Unfortunately, I don't think he's very strong overall, but it's funny. It makes you wonder what extra niches they can fill with new carts, because I expect there to be at least a few. Maybe another guest character or two, we'll see. I'm expecting the design scope of this game to be a bit bigger than this one, because infamously, they had to restart development like a year and a half before release that we learned about. When Sakurai got into this on his YouTube channel, he talked about it. Funny stuff, when this game was announced, it was like so quick for most people to find out that this was a Sakurai game. Before anything even happened. It's just a pre-rendered trailer. But everyone knows like his directing style so clearly that like back when the DLC was coming out for Ultimate, the Pyramithra trailer was the only one that he didn't work on. It was extremely obvious. Like this weird section right at the end, like this feels like it was just made in Source Filmmaker, honestly. This does not feel like a character reveal for Smash Ultimate. Let's talk about some map design stuff. I'm sort of expecting going into the sequel is that there will be 3 city trial maps, maybe close to double the single race, and maybe like 50% more top ride courses. But how about we propose something a little more crazy for these new city trial maps? Destructible environments could actually be a very fun wrinkle to put more variety into maps like this, either doing that or maybe just like having dynamic chunks that form together, because you already have these different zones throughout the map that could just be mix and matched, like that Mario Strikers game, but actually fun. That's one angle they could take with it. Different types of elevation is always fun for Kirby Airrides gliding. The little slopes that can get added to any particular map are so important. Jump and gliding is so key to this game that new maps should really have more rooms like this opening one in Machine Passage. Creating places for jumps and small gaps really spice up the clumping and chases that can occur during a race. In like these little small gaps do the job there. Better physics for these like half pipe areas would be great. A good goal for new race maps would be to have as many splits in the path that would give advantage to the different types of carts that you would see. So maybe a choice between a path that's like a longer straightaway or one that requires going through a bunch of bumpy terrain, or one that requires a steep jump to get to a high area quickly, can really help balance out the whole cast of stars that you have a choice from. The big thing to talk about with City Trial is just the balancing of the actual end result of the game, which is the part that no one talks about, I think almost deliberately, because they made these challenges super short and nobody cares about the conclusion because there's no way to prepare for it. The hint for the end challenge also lies to you, which is not fair. The game knowledge issue is almost at its worst when it comes to stadium events. Like High Jump is where finding what the best cart could be for that kind of scenario is already questionable to find out on the face of it, but then you have to contend with the fact that you get these hints that don't tell you what exactly the type of challenge you're getting in the first place is. It's just random. In the end, it kind of makes it even more RNG for what star you choose during the match, which makes even wanting to compete in the final matches seriously pointless. To me, the game is building up for this challenge that never actually comes, but just because the build-up is fun, the game kind of gets away with it. Looking at the stadium events as they are, they all have their own stat category that favors each, but looking at it with a fine-tooth comb, you'll find that actually playing to advantage in some of these makes it way harder for getting more stats. Destruction Derby, there's no space on these maps for high-speed carts at all, but you'll probably be spending like most of your time trying to build that up. And then you have no control for when you're actually fighting your opponents and you're just zipping around like crazy. And only like one of the maps is really conducive to battles like that. Then the weird ones are like Target Fight or Kirby Melee, where stats kinda don't matter overall. They can make you more competitive in spots, but the stats themselves aren't going to make you do better in a match like this. They may actually just make it harder if you're just zipping everywhere at once. So just picking something with better control might end up working out in matches like that. One way to mitigate this RNG hell is just to have it be like a best of 3 events type of deal where you get 3 different events at the end, because these challenges are so short to begin with that it wouldn't really interrupt the pace much. Single race, you play through 1 lap of the race mode, which is very strange. It's gonna be over in like 15 seconds when you have power-ups. Kirby Melee is funny because it's just like a knowledge check of like where you need to be. The first map's just an octagon, so like you just rush for sword and then do your thing. Whereas 2, you just like get up on the top. So redesigns for a lot of these game modes gonna be a big benefit. Target Flight, I wish it was harder, as well as having more rounds to it, because I think this is one of the more interesting challenges overall, but they just like don't really live up to the potential of the idea. High Jump's like, why did you make this? Oh, just for this 1 star, okay. It's just kind of like RNG chance get fucked if you went for any particular strategy. Similar with Air Glider, it's like, it's probably one of the better modes overall to like prepare for. You know what you're getting into, but like, it's dedicated stars for each of these modes, unfortunately. So even if you are given the knowledge ahead of time, like Drag Race, it's like the only reason you use the formula of the star, because it's exactly what it's made for. You get low times. And you got the legendary Flight Warp Star, which is probably a debug item that they just kind of left in the game. I think that's the idea behind it. Sword just like slightly worse version of Dragoon. Very fast, gives you ton of health, which is kind of makes the game kind of over in almost every single scenario. And Hydra sort of similarly in a speed scenario. It's supposed to be the attack one, but like I don't know how you're going to cleanly hit anybody with it. The domination of just so few star types in this kind of challenge scenario is just hilarious. A lot of the alt wins you see, like Checkered Knights on Warp Star, was literally just because a challenge called for it and I didn't do a time attack with any other configuration. Like, how else did they expect you to play Magma Flows or like Celestial Value without the Wing Star? This is just like the right way to do it. One of the wrinkles with doing 8-player Kirby Air Ride is just that since it is so tough to catch people in combat and while they're flying around and such, making these maps bigger to accommodate more players might actually throw off the rhythm of the game entirely. So I'm sort of questioning whether or not 8 players will be the case for the main Air Ride mode, or if they're just going to save it for City Trial only and then make different stadium modes for that sort of scenario. So I don't even know if single race will be in. So that saves the main bits I want to talk about here. I'm sort of caught off guard that since there's no summer direct, I guess Sakurai is going to be handling the marketing for this game on its own. I hope it comes out this year. I'm not 100% confident anymore, but look forward to playing this game when I get a Switch 2, not this year, because fuck paying that much. Anyway, bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye. Bye. Bye.